It's the end of August. How did I do in the month of August? Well, I read 12 books this month, and I have one, two, three, 6 books. I'm saying that, and I really only have 5 in front of me. But I do have 6 to talk about today. Hi, my name is Jeanette, and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So today I'm going to talk about the 6 books that I read in the second half of August. I debated whether it was 6 there. Okay, so I started the middle of the month with the Hangers Horsemen series. It is a 3-book series. I did a full reading vlog on this series. So book 1 is At Love's Command, book 2 is The Heart's Charge, and book 3 is In the Honor's Defense by Carrie Witemeyer. These are all historical romance set in Texas in the late 1800s. Debating whether it was late 1800s or early 1900s, but it's late 1800s. So in book 1, At Love's Command, which I only have on my Kindle, so here's a cover picture, and we meet the 4 Hanger Horsemen, and their leader is Matthew Hanger, Hangers Horsemen. And so we are following, really, he is the main character in book 1, and then the female character is Dr. Joe, who at the very beginning, the automatic assumption is that she is a male doctor when they hear Dr. Joe. Finds out she's a female, and different perspective, and kind of everything kind of goes from there, and we really get to know like the Hangers Horsemen's motto and mission. Then in book 2, we are following 2 of the horsemen, and they meet 2 women. One is kind of a second chance romance, one is a brand new, and I love this book. This was definitely my favorite of the series. I loved the 2 guys. I loved following the dual romance building and all the characters. Each character felt unique, and it was easy to distinguish who was who during different scenes. I really enjoyed my read through of this story. My only sadness of this was the 4 Hanger Horsemen were not together enough in this story for my liking. Majority of it was just the 2 of them, so we didn't really see Matthew much until near the end, and the 4th Horseman. Now, speaking about the 4th Horseman, then we have In Honor's Defense, which is book number 3, which features the 4th Horseman that has not been featured in the other 2 books. And in this one, he's kind of gone out on his own, got his own job, and we meet Demarius, who has recently taken over care of her nephew after her brother passed away and he was already widowed. So the nephew, the 14-year-old nephew, which name was Nate? Yes, Nate. So Demarius has recently taken guardianship of Nate. And in order to like kind of keep his life as stable as possible, she has moved from St. Louis to Texas to move into the ranch that her brother owned and kind of try to keep Nate's life as stable as possible. But Nate is still dealing with the grief of his father, and their suspicions because of his death was he murdered or was it accidental? So they begin kind of looking into that, and Nate's really having problems. He's a 14-year-old boy that's just lost his dad, right? Like, you can imagine some of the stuff and some of the way he treats Demarius, who, yes, is his aunt, but they haven't seen each other for like 8-9 years, so he doesn't really know her that well. Then Luke arrives on the scene working for a neighbor to try to figure out a mystery that's going on. And so, due to circumstances that happen, Demarius and Luke kind of get close and get to know each other. And I have to say, I absolutely loved the meet scene between the 2 of them. It was so entertaining. I laughed so hard. And I really enjoyed following these characters and kind of seeing them grow, and especially Demarius, who is completely in a new environment to her, and she grew from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, like almost like a different person. Like she'd really grown confident in herself and being able to speak up, and I really like that. And kind of watching Luke take Nate under his wing and become a mentor for him, I really enjoyed this. And they are definitely faith-filled stories. All of them really have strong faith in this one, but in this one in particular, Luke and Demarius really talk about what they're reading in the scriptures and what they believe and it just really felt very natural. So this was a 5-star for me, as well as book 2 was a 5-star and book 1 was a 4-star, just because I think I didn't get into it as much, and the intro scene in book 1 really had me so confused on what was going on and what we were seeing. But these two were definitely 5 stars, and as I said, this one was my favorite of the series. I highly recommend this series, and yeah, I really loved it. And if you want kind of my full in-depth review and kind of my experience while reading it, I will link that reading vlog in the description below. So, in between reading that one, I was listening to Deeper Water by Robert Whitlow, which is book number 1 of the Tides of Truth series. And then today, I just finished Higher Hope by Robert Whitlow, which is book number 2 of the Tides of Truth. Oh, I just realized I have another book that is not even here. So I guess I read 7. Okay, Deeper Water. So in this one, we meet Tammy Lynn Taylor, who is a third-year law student. When we first meet her at the opening of the book, she's at home on winter break and kind of applying around to summer clerk jobs. And she gets an offer at a job at a law firm in Savannah. And she has been raised in a strict Christian home, and she has very strict Christian values. She only wears skirts, doesn't wear pants, very limited makeup, that kind of stuff, right? And so she starts working at this law firm, so then it picks up in the summer where she starts working at the law firm. And she meets the 2 other summer clerks that are hired with her. And one of them is also, after talking, they realize he's a Christian. And the other girl is from a Jewish background, but not really practicing Jewish customs, I guess. And just really, so Julie really kind of pushes Tammy a little bit. And Tammy really kind of learns what she believes for herself and working it through. Then we're following the law case that she really gets assigned to, and the main one she's following. And that is with Moses Jones, who is an older gentleman. I understand him to be black. I'm not 100% sure on that now. Now I'm debating about that. But I think he's the minority race. And so, and he doesn't, kind of almost like a homeless guy, and senior, and he doesn't feel like he's really done anything wrong. And as Tammy and kind of the firm students that she's working with begin to looking into it, it kind of becomes murky waters a little bit. And so I really enjoyed following the case of Moses, and we get scenes from his perspective and what he's experiencing, both like outside of jail and in jail while he's waiting for the case to go through trial and stuff. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed following Tammy and kind of watching her kind of develop into her own person, and kind of what does she believe and why does she believe it. What I struggled with is she's a 3rd-year law student, and she is still calling home almost daily, be like, is it okay if I did this? Is it okay if I did this? Or this guy wants to go out for supper with me. Is it okay? And I'm like, sometimes she felt much younger than what she is. That's my thing. And this book is told in first person, which when I first started reading it or listening to it, I was like, wow, that's weird. I haven't listened to a first person book in a long time. It's like, wow, that's different. It takes some getting used to. But I did really enjoy following the case and kind of getting to know Tammy as a person. Then book 2, Higher Hope, continues. We're still in the same summer. The Moses Jones case has finished now, and so she's assigned a new case. And this one is with a preacher that will not sell her church to a developer who wants it. And kind of the law firm kind of starts going after, they're working for the developer. And at times it was like, I didn't really understand what was going on and why they were trying to kind of some of the charges they were trying to bring up against the preacher woman. Or even some of the actions that the preacher woman did. I'm like, I don't understand why this is included. Like, I did not get the case. And even when the case wrapped up at the end, it was like, that's it? Like, that's how it, what? Like, I don't really know. I have a suspicion of what happened, but I don't really know. And I was just like, yeah, I'm not sure. But in addition to that, we are following Tammy's personal life. And she's agreed to start courting this one guy, but then there's another guy that's interested in her, and she still spends quite a bit of time with him. And at times the guy she's courting is not the nicest, like, kind of, not that he's mean to her, but I mean, he's very busy with work, but he's not acknowledging some of her feelings. And I just wasn't a fan of him at times. I don't know. And I don't like love triangles. But not that it was a triangle, because the guys weren't fighting over her. And it gets revealed a little bit later that the guys are actually working together, and they're getting together and praying for her and stuff, that she'll make the right decision going forward. And just, I don't know, like, it just felt a little unrealistic, maybe. I don't know. But then we're also following, Tammy is living with this older woman as kind of her live-in caregiver when she's not at work. And something happens with the older woman. And so, like, we're following that, and Tammy's trying to witness to her and trying to, right, and what is really happening, or what is part of this older woman's, like, illness, right? Is what's she telling her really happening, or is that something the woman's kind of delusioned and thought happened? And then we've got that older woman's daughter, kind of, so there's a whole bunch of stress in Tammy's life at this point in time. And I really enjoyed kind of following Tammy, and I really enjoyed Tammy and Julie interaction. Like, just the way the two of them kind of played off each other, I really enjoyed that. I just did not enjoy that it was a love triangle, but there was two guys vying for one woman, and I just didn't get the case. I don't know. But I am going to pick up book number 3 because I want to know. I'm interested in Tammy's life, and I want to know what happens, because this one ends on, I mean, this one definitely ended on a cliffhanger, and then this one ends on a cliffhanger too. Like, what does she decide? That is both guy-wise, job-wise, school-wise, like, it just, life-wise, right? So, yeah, and, yeah. I think there was a lot of detail in this one. Same as this one. There was a lot of detail about, like, just everyday life that I think really bogged down the story a little bit at times. More so in this one, because the case is really, I don't know, we don't really get to know much about the case till almost halfway through the book. Like, we started at the beginning, but then there's a lot of other stuff that happens, and then they finally get to kind of all the discovery stuff that they do, and yeah. So I gave this book 4 stars. Yes, I gave this book 4 stars because I really enjoyed following the case. This book, I think, is a 3-star for me because I could have done without a good, probably quarter of the book, half of the book, I think. Like, just, yeah. So, then, the book that I forgot about. So then the next book I read was The Legacy of Longdale Manor by Carrie Turansky. This one releases September the 26th, and I received an advanced reader copy from NetGalley. And I was so excited to receive this book. So excited. I love the cover. I have loved the books by Carrie that I have read in the past. And this one is a dual timeline set in the Lake District of England and features an old journal, so with diary letters and stuff. It sounded great. It sounded really up my alley because I love England settings, I love dual timelines, and I love reading old journals. Like, this should have been the perfect book for me. And the cover's gorgeous. But this book did not grab me the way I was hoping it would grab me. And I was really disappointed by this book. But because there was aspects of the book that I really loved, and then there was aspects of the book that really disappointed me, I struggled and still kind of really debating of where this book falls on the rating scale. So after kind of thinking about it for a few days before I even thought about writing my review, it was like, okay, it's not bad enough to be a 3-star book for me because there was parts I really enjoyed. But it's not good enough to be a 4-star book for me because a 4-star book for me is a book that I would reread. And I don't know if I would reread this one. So then I'm like, I don't know. So I'm at the 3.5. So I put it at 4 on Goodreads, but I put in my review, which I never do, but I put in my review 3.5, rounding up to 4. And I think that's where I'm at. I'm pretty sure that's where I'm at. So, what was this book and why did I not enjoy it as much as I thought I would enjoy it? So as I said, is a dual timeline. We are following Charlotte in 1912 and Gwen in 2012. And both of them have father issues. So Charlotte's father has recently passed away, and as they were packing up the house, she discovers a secret about her father, and it turns out he isn't who she thought he was, or he was keeping something from them, and really, yeah, he wasn't who he thought he was. And then we've got Gwen, who has never known her father. She grew up without a father, knows his first name, and that's it. And her mother promised to tell her about her father after she graduated university. But then her mother passed away months before she graduated, so she's never known anything. She has a wedding picture from them, and that's it. So they're kind of both struggling with these father issues when the book opens, when we first meet them. And then Charlotte has just recently moved because of the situation that happened with her dad. And so her and her mom and sister are trying to settle into this new place. And then Gwen has made a huge mistake at work and gets sent somewhere. She works for her grandfather and then gets sent off to the Lake District in England as on an assignment to work at this house. She's an art appraiser. And so she is working there, and at the house is where she discovers the journal from Charlotte. So through that, we meet Charlotte and kind of get to know her story. And we're seeing Gwen kind of get to know the people in the area and that she's working with, and kind of she starts searching for her father. So I was okay with all that. Totally on that. It's just, it moved slow, and I didn't feel that invested into it, that I could put the book down at any point in time. And I'm not normal. Like, once I get into a story, I don't want it to end, and I don't want it, like, I don't want to take breaks. But this one, I had no problems taking a break from. Like, I wasn't that invested in it. But I did really like the female characters, and really was encouraged to for them to kind of get some answers and see. But what took the book down for me is the male characters. And not, I mean, maybe the dads, but really kind of the romantic interest guys. Both characters have a romantic interest, and that romantic interest starts showing interest in them, but then things happen, and I was just, the way the guys acted towards the women at times, it was like, really? Really? And then the guys would say to them, well, how did you not know? And I'm like, because they're not mind readers. Like, the guys just really annoyed me at times. Really annoyed me. And I was just like, are guys really that dense that they don't know how your actions look to another person, or how, like, their treatment of it makes other people feel? Yeah, I have strong feelings about that, because it just really annoyed me. But what I really liked was the faith message of the story, because as we progress through the story, the faith message of God being the ultimate father for us, he is not like our human fathers. He is the ultimate father example. I really enjoyed that. And the way that the women found that and discovered that, I really, really like that. And then there was an older character in the modern timeline that I really liked the way she treated Gwen. And I really liked her. Like, she was a great grandmother figure. So the quotes that I took from this is, which I really enjoyed. There were some good quotes in it. So the first one is, sometimes a setback is simply a redirection. Because Gwen makes this mistake at work, so that it kind of appears to be a setback. But then with everything that happens, her whole life kind of changes a little bit, and it's a redirection. I really like that. Then the other one is about the message of forgiveness. When we choose to forgive others, we are not excusing what they did or saying it was right. We're releasing them into God's hands and allowing Him to deal out justice as He sees fit. So it's not about us, right? It's about Him dealing with them. We are releasing ourselves when we forgive somebody. So that is why I decided to give it a 3.5 and round up to 4 on everything that doesn't do the half stars. Because, well, I really enjoyed the setting, because the setting, the way it was described, was beautiful. But I've also had the privilege of driving through the Lake District. It was a rainy day when we drove through, but it still was pretty. But so it described the setting perfectly. And I really liked the female characters, and I was really rooting for them. And they were much better off at the end of the book than they were at the beginning of the book. But yeah, so that is my thoughts on that. Then the last book that I finished was Starfish Pier by Irene Hannon. This is book number 6 of the Hope Harbor series. And in this one, we meet Holly and Stephen. So Holly is a first grade teacher who has just recently moved to Hope Harbor in the last 3 months. We find out very early on in the book that she has spina bifida. I don't know how to say that. And she has very strong pro-life opinions. Then we meet Stephen, who is an ex-military. We find out that he worked for the Delta Force. And when we meet him, he has just come to Hope Harbor because his brother and family live in Hope Harbor. He's been there about a year, so just come. He's been in town about a year, and he runs a fishing charter business. And when we first meet him, I was like, his name sounds familiar. Have I met him before? And then something's brought up a little bit later in the book, and I was like, oh, he was in book 5. This is who he is. And I was like, duh. Like, this is why I binge series back to back, so I can keep all the characters straight. If I had read book 5 just before this one, it would have been like, oh, of course I know who he is. But that's here or there, right? So we are following the two of them kind of meeting and kind of just getting to know each other. But meanwhile, we're following Stephen's brother, Patrick, and his wife, Cindy, and they have 2 young kids. One's a baby and one is a first grader in Holly's class. And Patrick is dealing with an alcohol problem, but when the book first starts, he won't admit he has a problem. And that is why Stephen arrived in town, to kind of be there for his support and try to get him on the right path. Then we meet Holly's neighbor, Pete, who is an older gentleman who has lost his wife 3 years ago and has just moved in, and just something's going on with him, and you don't really know what at the beginning, but he's like definitely like very closed off, doesn't want to know people, and invite him to the neighborhood, get him to know the community and stuff. And then she finds out why he's closed himself off to people and doesn't want, and it's really sad, really sad. But through circumstances that happen, kind of they build their own communities. So kind of the Rourke family, so Stephen, his brother, and the family, and then Holly, they all kind of surround Pete and and Patrick as they're dealing with their different problems that they're dealing with. And then there's Stephen and Holly, who have very different opinions on certain things, or because of Stephen's background, he doesn't feel like Holly can accept him for who he is, and because of her opinions on things and stuff she's grown up with. And so it's like, can these two very opposites get to know each other and possibly form a relationship? Well, I enjoyed the two of them. It was really the secondary characters that I loved. I really enjoyed Cindy, Patrick's wife, and I felt for her, and just the encouragement that and the stuff that she put up with Patrick and tried to help him through. And then Patrick, when he finally admitted his problem and started working on it, I was really rooting for him. And then Pete, when we found out what his issue was and why, it was just like, it's so sad, that I loved the way that especially Patrick and Pete kind of befriended each other and supported each other. And then we've got the two ministers. They have been throughout the whole series, and they have a weekly golf game and really have they banter back and forth quite a bit. But then they kind of bring Pete into their circle and take him out golfing and stuff, and the banter, I loved seeing a little bit more of them, especially one of them, him and Pete have a really kind of heart-to-heart discussion, and I really like that. So I loved the secondary characters the most. Well, I didn't mind the main characters that we were following and kind of watching that grow, and I love the ending. I'm a sucker for good endings. And I love the way it was done. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time with this book, but it's not a 5-star for me. This would be a 4-star because I wasn't rooting for the main relationship the whole way through the book. I really was more focused on Patrick and Cindy's relationship, and kind of can that be restored, and can Patrick get his life back on track. So yeah, that is that book. So this is what I read, plus the one on my Kindle, which was the advanced reader copy. And those are all upside down for you. I'm sorry. Is that better? So yeah, I read 7, because there was 2 on my Kindle. Book number 1 for this series is on my Kindle. So that is what I read in the second half of August. As I said, my favorite book was definitely The Harsh Charge by Carrie Witemeyer. I loved this book. And this one, book number 3 of the series, In Honor's Defense, was definitely the runner-up for Best Book of the Month. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I would love it if you would like and subscribe to my channel, and let's chat books in the comments below. What was your favorite book from August? Thank you. Bye.